Hi, Press Forward podcast listeners, and welcome to Day 8 of Press Pause, a collaborative mini-series brought to you by WP&Op and WPMU Dev. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and in each episode of this series, Mika Daly and I interview WordCamp goers from around the world to hear their uplifting, fun, or interesting stories that have stuck with them from past camps they've attended. It's a show that gives you a moment to pause and remember that, at its heart, WordPress is made up of real people. The show has two purposes really. Number one is for you to be able to listen to WordCamp stories and enjoy them, and that's great. But there's also a deeper purpose, and that is to encourage those of you that have not had a chance to attend to go for it. Take heart from what you hear and realise that whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever your background, you're going to fit right in. Right, let's get on with the show. This edition of Press Pause is brought to you by Green Geeks. Green Geeks offers an awesome managed web hosting platform that's built for speed, security, and scalability whilst being environmentally friendly. Enjoy a better web hosting experience for your WordPress website with Green Geeks. So now, without further ado, I bring you Róbey Lawrence.
So I am Róbey Lawrence. That's Róbey, like Roby-Wan Kenobi, but I also respond to Robbie. And I'm a, web consultant, obviously using WordPress, and I live in Port Macquarie in Australia. So my first WordCamp was in about 2016. My friends had been harping on about this thing called WordCamp. My friends who I'd previously met at a meetup a few months earlier, and they said, oh yeah, there's this big WordCamp thing. It's like a meetup, but 10 times as big, and you'll meet all these people and learn all of these things. And it's anyone can go. It's for developers or beginners. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Still wasn't convinced. And then I think finally I got paid for a job or something right before the tickets were on sale, and so I'm like, okay, I'll buy a ticket and buy my travel up there. And then went up, and it was probably the most enjoyable conference that I've ever been to, even though the ticket was like $50. So I was like, my expectations admittedly weren't that high. But when I got there was just so many people that I would walk up to, and in conversation, like within 5 minutes, it'd be like the conversation would turn to a plugin or a theme or a custom post type or something, which was really weird, but really cool because you never really get to have those conversations with other people, especially so I grew up in a bit of a non-techie town, I guess. So I never really had anyone around to have those conversations with, just all self-taught and watching video tutorials. So when you get to have a conversation about those nerdy things with someone, it's kind of unique.
Where I live, I don't really know anyone who uses WordPress. I don't get to have WordPress conversations all that much. I never get to have conversations about code, plugins and themes because, well, my friends just don't get it. In fact, I'd go as far as to venture that most of them would not even know what WordPress was if I were to ask them.
Well, the next question would be like, so what football team do you go for? Completely changing the topic. Yeah, these days you can pretty much say, do you use the internet? Oh, yes. Well, the WordPress is pretty much the internet. And speaking of plugins, like you most likely will meet like plugin developers. Like I met some people that had built a plugin that I had been using for months and months. I'm like, what? You come to these things too? This is amazing.
It's great to meet up with fellow WordPressers, but perhaps you're new to all of this. Perhaps you think that you're going to go to WordCamp and feel like a square peg in a round hole, like you don't fit in, like you don't know enough, like you're an imposter.
I might have had that feeling for like the first half hour to hour or so, but after the first couple of sessions went in and came back out to conversation and people introducing me to other people, it was pretty clear that everyone was just there for the community. Because no one, the other thing too is like the speakers don't get paid. They're going there to basically give back, which just makes it so much more genuine.
One of the nice things about WordCamp is that there's usually a few things going on at the same time. There might be several talks happening at once, but there's also the so-called hallway track, which is the option just to sit things out and hang out. Use the time to relax, meet up with other people, do whatever you want really. I wondered which part of WordCamp Róbey preferred.
It probably evens out. So there's definitely talks that I've watched at WordCamps over the years that I still remember and I go, oh, that's a really cool use case for WordPress. I've never thought to do that. Or this combination of plugins works really well together. Or even if it's just like someone sharing their own story of how they came from working a 9-to-5 job and then pivoting to freelancing and then starting from the beginning and working their way up to either running their own company or joining a big agency. Those are really good, encouraging stories to hear as well. But there's the same thing between sessions is all the people you meet, the conversations you have, and and just like I said before, just talking nerdy to each other.
Maybe you don't really like interacting with other people all that much, especially people who you've never met before. But WordCamp is unique in this regard, in that all the people there have this singular purpose, to be a part of WordPress, and that can make breaking the ice a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and I think it's because most people feel a similar way when they go. When you walk up and start a conversation with someone, they might be just as awkward or just as nervous as you are, and that instantly just makes you feel a lot more comfortable. You've got something to talk about.
Before we started to record, Róbey told me a nice story about meeting a WordPress hero of his, and I wanted you to hear that story.
Yeah, so when you're freelancing and working for yourself, you tend to spend a lot of time on the internet, which usually leads to a lot of time on things like YouTube and Facebook videos and everything. And so your idols start to shift from movie stars and TV celebrities to people you see on the internet all the time. And Troy Dean was one of those people who seemed to be, he had his face everywhere through his marketing material, and he just launched a course or something. So I was seeing him on the internet a lot. And then I saw on the schedule, oh, Troy's speaking. And so I went to the talk and found out that a couple of my friends knew who he was. And at the end of the event on Sunday, it was all winding down and we were all just standing up the back of the room. A lot of people had left by this stage. Troy said to a couple of other people, oh, who wants to go out for dinner? A couple of people that he knew that I was friends with, they said, yeah, sounds like a good idea. We'll go to this place just down the road. And then, oh, Róbey, you can come along as well. You're hanging around. And I said, yeah, I'll come. That sounds good. And so we went to just a restaurant down the street, probably 8 of us. And Troy and his wife were there, and we were able to have some conversation and just realized how down to earth he was, not up on a pedestal like sometimes you put movie stars and people you see on the internet all the time, and realize they've got legs just like you. Talked about his old band days when he used to play in a band. And since then, I've just had that, since changing that mentality to everyone else, that they're all just the same as you. They're all on the same level.
So there you go. WordCamps are great. You don't need to worry about it if you've never been before. The people there share the same passion that you do, and those people are down to earth and approachable. All of them. You don't have to go to all the talks, and there's plenty of time and space to do your own thing. Now, you've just got to take the first step and buy your ticket. The Press Forward podcast is a production of WP and Op. This mini-series is a collaborative effort by WPMU Dev and WP and Op. Mika Daly and me, Nathan Wrigley, produced this episode, and Mika created the original score. A special thank you to Róbey for chatting with me today. And thanks to you for listening. And remember that together we can press forward.